Great. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the mentor orientation. It's really good to have you here. Thanks for sharing your summer stuff. I feel like people get up to so many incredible things, and it's just great to see a smattering of what everybody did. Um, let's see here. Let's go start with goals for the whole session. And we really want this session to feel collaborative, engaging, and supportive. And we would love you to just leave this whole session and this workshop motivated, excited for the semester, and confident about next steps. We're going to start with intros of our team and then move into an overview of the program as a whole, and then talk about special projects. After that, we'll take a brief break and then come back with recruitment and professional development for the fellows, talk about how we support them during the semester, and then do a kind of like advising circle where we do Q&A with you folks. You can dive in a little bit deeper, and then just setting you up for the semester in general with what's next, what to expect. Let's see here. There we go. So let's start with meeting our staff. So Edie, do you want to kick us off?
Why don't I actually go last? Because then I can go right into my special welcome here.
That is a very excellent. That's amazing. Okay, cool. So I am Corey Clark. I am the newly promoted Associate Director of Internships, and I've been, let's see, this is my seventh semester at CFSI. I specialize in mentor support, so I'm particularly interested in any feedback that you folks have about the session today. And my new responsibility is coordinating the BAPS class, the Becoming a Problem Solver class that happens every Friday morning. We respond to students' feedback every semester. So I put some interesting changes in place and I'm interested to see how they go. I'm also going to introduce Emily because she happens to be out of office this week. She is on vacation. She is the new senior manager of internships and wellness support. She manages a mini cohort of students just like I do. So she's an SITC advisor and she's also the leader of the student support team. So with that being said about Emily, we miss her dearly. If we could bounce over to Erin.
Everyone, nice to meet you all. My name is Erin. I'm the Director of Recruitment and Enrollment here at CFSI. I work really closely with Corey and Edie and Rachel and Emily. I'm on the recruitment side of things, though, so working with the students to promote the program and get them to come to Boston. All of our students receive full credit for this, as most of you are aware. And I also work with the student ambassadors who are alumni of our program and who are back on their home campus helping other students find out about semester in the city. And I'll pass it to Rachel.
Awesome. Thank you, Erin. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. I'm the Associate Director of Student Experience at CFSI. So what that means for our students is I'm primarily interacting with them when it comes to their housing and living in Boston. So anything to do with their apartments, anything outside of the classroom and their internships, they are communicating with me about. And that includes our fun stuff. So things like community life events, getting out into the city and seeing some things that they probably have not seen before, experiencing things they haven't. I would do that. And then I also work with Corey and Emily on the internships team. So I am also going to be an SITC advisor for some of you as well. And I will pass it to Edie.
Awesome. I am Edie Churchill. I use they, them pronouns. I am the Chief Operating Officer for College for Social Innovation, which means that I have the wonderful privilege of supervising Corey, Erin, and Rachel, and I'm really excited that this is the team we've got running these programs this semester. So excited to get started. I want to thank you all and welcome you all. I see a few familiar names. I see lots of new names. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of the Semester in the City program. This is, I think, an exciting program and one that is really made even more special by all of you. You are the key ingredient to the Semester in the City program. Our mentors are cited almost every semester as the biggest influence and biggest inspiration for our students. So thank you all very much for joining us. We're going to go through a whole bunch of stuff today, talk a little bit about the Semester in the City program as an overview, talk a little bit about our partnership with AmeriCorps, and then talk a little bit about your role as a mentor. So why don't we jump right in, Corey?
Okay, sure. I'll just interject one thing, which is to say that Rachel's going to be monitoring the chat. So we're going to stop periodically for questions. In fact, a number of times. So like, don't feel if you've got a longer one, please, you could hold it if you'd like. Otherwise, if you put it in the chat, one of us will be able to type in and answer it along the way. And I'll also just connect with Rachel and make sure that we captured anything that we might have missed. So yes, take it away, Edie. Here we go with the overview of the program.
Excellent. So, Semester in the City is an experiential learning program, and College for Social Innovation overall is an experiential learning college. That is what we do. And when we talk about that, what we really mean is that there are sort of four key components to a successful experience for a fellow in our program. There's learning and purpose-driven career building. There's working in diverse teams, there's human-centered problem solving, and there is persuasive storytelling. All of these move up to a list of about 20 core competencies that we have identified through research from employers and employer needs, from students and their student needs, and from just a general understanding of what is needed to succeed in the world. So those core competencies are what we focus on throughout the program. And we do that through our internships, where our students are placed with you for about 30 hours a week. We'll talk a little bit more about hours and internships soon. Are through two classes, which we'll talk about on the next slide as we get into the schedule a little bit. And then through a series of different events and workshops around building general life skills and career development. Rachel is really our lead on that as our Associate Director of Student Experience, and puts together a number of community events and workshops throughout our launch week programming that set our students up well to succeed for a full semester. Students with us are living in apartments rather than dorm rooms. They are responsible for cooking their own meals. They are responsible for managing their own budget, and we work with them throughout the semester to make that happen. The special sauce to our whole program is in direct hands-on mentorship of our fellows. That comes from all of you, but it also comes from advisors on our staff. Each student is assigned an advisor who works with them throughout the semester on building these skills. So why don't we jump forward and take a look at what does a typical week for a fellow in our programs look like. You'll see here the bulk of it is in their internship time. Their students are required to complete, I think it's 450 total hours as part of the program. 360 of those hours are from their internship and from their direct service work. That is critical to success. The remainder of their time is in training. That training comes through two classes that they take with us. The first of those is called the Social Innovators Toolbox. That is a course that is focused around how social impact organizations begin and grow and form, how social movements build and grow, and what the fellows' role in those movements is, and how we can place ourselves and sustain ourselves in ongoing social impact movements. The second class is called Becoming a Problem Solver. And this is our class that focuses specifically on those core competencies I mentioned. Throughout the class, each class focuses on a different competency through hands-on workshops, through a lecture series, through a professional panel series, all of which culminates in their special project, which is part of their internship as well. In the evenings, students have the opportunity to participate in community life activities. This can be anything from a game with the Red Sox to a museum trip to this fall we have students joining us from the National Taiwan University, and last year our students from Taiwan did a dumpling making workshop with their fellows in their cohort, and we're hoping they will do something similar again this semester. So there's all sorts of events that work into that allow students to really enjoy and experience Boston as they are also learning about the communities they serve. The weekly hour breakdown. So this is sort of during their time working with you in their internship. What are they doing? 50% of their work is general capacity building work. We'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. About 40% of their time is around their special project. Their special project is something that is intended to be something that they leave behind with your organization. Some sort of capacity building project that allows your organization to expand its capacity going forward, may build resources and tools that your organization can use once they have left. This is sort of their legacy project with you. The remaining 10% of their time is in professional development and observation. We want them to see what your organization does, how your organization works, and get an understanding of how nonprofits and social impact organizations work overall. When we talk about capacity building, what do we mean here? There are a number of things fellows can do. They can, there's a full list here. I won't read the full list. You can refer to this later when we send you slides. But there are many, many things they can be doing to help increase the capacity of your organization and the work your organization can do. It's really important to us that our fellows are thought of in your organizations as a staff member. We want you to include them in the work you're doing and to be thought of as more than just a standard intern who's making copies and grabbing coffee. This is a more intensive fellowship. We're working on career skills in the background with them, and we're hoping that you are putting them to the test to use those skills as they go throughout their internship. I will pause here for any questions on what the SITC program is overall. And then does anybody have any questions on what we do and how it works?
None for me. Thank you so much for this orientation.
Thank you. I do see one question in the chat here. I have a question about schedule. I'd like my intern to work one early evening per week until 6 p.m. because she would need to work with our evening adult education classes. Is the interim schedule that ends at 5:30 p.m. a hard end time, or is it flexible? There is some flexibility for you to work with your fellow to create a weekly schedule. There are a few hard pieces to that. The Wednesday afternoons that we do have our class and they need to be at the class. Similar on Friday mornings, we have a class. So those are the times we really can't schedule of that. Other than that, you are welcome to work with your fellow to develop a schedule that works for your organization or works for them. There are requirements on how many hours they receive. And as we get into the AmeriCorps pieces of this, we'll talk about why that's important. But any other questions around schedule for students? Great. Let's jump into AmeriCorps policies and prohibited activities. So we are an AmeriCorps program. This is our fourth year working with AmeriCorps as a partner organization. And for those of you who are returning, you may notice that there is a new logo on our sheets. For the past 3 years, we have operated as a national direct AmeriCorps program, meaning that we were directly granted by the federal government. This year, our 3-year grant cycle with the National Direct Program ended, and we decided to reapply, but this time to work with the Massachusetts Service Alliance, which is the state AmeriCorps commission here in Massachusetts. They are a wonderful organization. We're very excited to partner with them. It means that we get a little bit more support from the MSA, but there are also a couple of different requirements. Legally speaking, it means we are a sub-grantee. That doesn't mean a whole lot to any of you. You don't really need to think about that too much. There isn't a ton that changes, but there are some different focuses that the MSA is going to be looking at a little more closely. So we'll talk about some of that. To begin, though, as an AmeriCorps program, I do need to read this statement. CFSI and its programs are available to all and do not discriminate on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, age, religion, sexual orientation, disability, political affiliation, family status, pregnancy, genetic information, military status, or any other characteristic protected by federal, state, or local law. For a full list of those who are protected by federal, state, and local law, you can look to the Uniform Code of Federal Regulations. I believe it is in Section 2, and that is all listed there, all of the different classifications there that are protected by law. CFSI is partnered with AmeriCorps, as I mentioned. Our fellows receive a couple of benefits as part of this. First, they have access to an AmeriCorps and CFSI alumni network that they can use to leverage for job applications. It's a great thing to have on your resume to have been an AmeriCorps member. But they also gain access to a Siegel Education Award. If they complete their service hours and satisfactorily complete the program, they're eligible to receive a roughly $1,900 scholarship that is indexed every year by the federal government that they can use towards education purposes. So they can apply that to future tuition, to future graduate programs. There's all sorts of different things that they can use that for. Due to AmeriCorps guidelines, we need to track service and training hours very, very closely. We're going to be using the America Learns system. If you are returning to us, you'll be familiar with America Learns. If you are new, you may not have seen that. Do not worry, we will be sending out more resources on that. It's included in the mentor resource page. There are training information on how to use that, and Corey will go over with you how to track hours and things like that in the near future. There are, however, as an AmeriCorps and federal program, some activities that are prohibited for our fellows to participate in. And we're going to go over each of these in a little bit of detail. Just scrolling down in my notes. Give me one moment. Okay. The first, political activity and advocacy. Our fellows cannot do things like directly influence legislation or lobby. They cannot engage in protests, and they cannot promote or deter union organizing. In particular, AmeriCorps takes close look at anything that might be considered partisan activity. Working closely with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party is a big no-go for AmeriCorps. The second is religious activity. Our fellows cannot lead worship services. They cannot engage in religious instruction or attempt to convert people from one belief to another. So they cannot proselytize and they cannot recruit for any particular religion. Our fellows cannot do work that directly benefits a for-profit entity. So we only partner with nonprofits or B Corp organizations with a social impact mission. If you are with a B Corp organization, we should talk a little more closely because the student's special project will have to be tailored to make sure it is directly benefiting a community of need. So we'll talk a little bit more about that if you are a B Corp. Voter registration. Fellows cannot perform services that directly impact a voter registration drive. So they can't be out there canvassing to get people on a voter registration. I'm going to pause here because this usually means there are a lot of questions and I am seeing a few pop up. First one, is all hiring, onboarding, HR paperwork handled by CFSI AmeriCorps, so they just show up and we can dive into onboarding? Yes, that is generally correct. There is a member services agreement that you will need to sign along with the student. That is pretty much the only part of like HR onboarding you need to worry about. We pay our students a stipend. We give them a food reimbursement. There are all sorts of supports on the back end. They are fellows with CFSI. So according to AmeriCorps, they are in a position with CFSI and then placed at a service site working with you. So there's a sort of layer in between. Rachel, I see your hand, so I'm going to pop over to you. You're muted, Rachel.
Thank you. I was just typing out a response to the next question about our NTU students. It is a great question. So you are correct that our NTU students are not AmeriCorps members, but we want them to have as equitable of an experience as possible. So they are going to be bound to a similar set of prohibited activities. That is through a document we call our Code of Conduct, which is a CFSI specific document that replicates a lot of those prohibited activities for any students that are either international students or not eligible for AmeriCorps for other reasons. The one big thing that NTU students will have to do that is similar is they'll have to be tracking their hours throughout the semester as well as our domestic students. So the portion where we're talking about timesheets and hour tracking will still be relevant to those NTU students.
Yeah, I will also note, like we will be using America Learns to track their hours as well, so that will be all be the same, and that often many of the requirements of their visa are tied very similarly to the AmeriCorps requirements. So we're pretty closely aligned on all of that. Where their experience will differ is mostly going to be in their courses behind the scenes that are on our end. Do any of the AmeriCorps guidelines apply to fellow? That was what we just said. Some of our events occur at churches and places of worship. Are they allowed to attend or table? Yes, they are allowed to work with religious organizations. They simply cannot be leading or engaging in religious worship services, or in doing any sort of religious education or conversion activity. So they're many of the organizations we work with are faith-based organizations, and that is okay as long as the service that is being provided is a social service that benefits the community. Um,
Can I hop in with one more thing, Edie?
yes, go for it.
Just to say that these are all restrictions for like when they are working, but they are fully like participatory, like human beings. Whenever they are not working at their internship and not recording hours, they can do any of these. We just ask that they don't wear any AmeriCorps identification at the time, but they are free to help register voters, to do any kind of religious activity, just as long as it's not as a part of their internship.
Right. Yeah, on their own time, they are welcome to do that. The interesting Corey notes, not wearing AmeriCorps memorabilia or anything like that while they are doing that in their personal time. As a converse to that, when they are serving, they need to be wearing some sort of AmeriCorps memorabilia, and we've gotten them some pins and backpacks and things to do that. You are also welcomed to put up a AmeriCorps serves here sign at your organization, which I'm waiting for MSA to send us. They have some graphics for that we'll be able to share soon. Jessica, I see you're asking if we have specific language that we just read about those prohibited activities. Corey, is that included in the mentor resource page? Any information on
Yeah,
the
Jade just
awesome.
put it up there. So like we can provide you with like a poster. Again, this would come from the Massachusetts Service Alliance, which we sometimes call MSA. They do have a poster that you can post so that everybody's aware of prohibited activities, but you're going to get a link. It lives on our mentor resources page now.
Awesome. Let's jump forward to talk a little bit more about service hours. So I mentioned that our fellows are required to complete at least 360 hours of direct service. Um, that's important for a number of reasons. One, it allows our fellows to have a rich and rewarding experience. It is also makes the program a bit more intensive, where we're hoping for our fellows to be working at least 30 hours a week at your organization, as close to a full-time job as we can get. This is intended to be something that sort of throws our fellows into the deep end a little bit and challenges them so that they are experiencing what working life will be like when they graduate from their college. We want them to have a positive contribution to the communities they serve, invest significant amounts of time working on valuable projects, and develop the professional skills and a sense of responsibility for their work. It's really, really important this year, even more than in past years, that we are closely tracking our fellows' hours, and that the fellows are meeting that 30-hour-a-week threshold. If they're not meeting that 30-hour-a-week threshold, they're not going to be able to complete their full service hours, and that will put them at risk of losing the Siegel Award scholarship, and it further threatens College for Social Innovation's grant with AmeriCorps. It's very important that our students are completing their service hours and getting their full service memberships. Um, uh, there we go. That's what I was looking for. Timesheet service and training hours. So fellows are tracked using America Learns. It's all going to be audited by the Massachusetts Service Alliance. This is new this year. So the Mass Service Alliance will have access to America Learns. They will be looking more closely at fellow hours, and they may occasionally reach out with questions or concerns regarding fellow hours. There are a few things that they are particularly looking for. Any fellow that has low hours suddenly and then sees a sudden spike. So we want to make sure that their hours are consistent and that you build a consistent schedule with them. So that in particular, I want you to think about that if you or members of your staff are taking vacation, to make sure to leave enough work for the fellow to be able to still meet their hours on any given week. If we see a lot of fluctuation in hours, that raises a red flag for Mass Service Alliance, and they're going to ask us about that, and we're in turn going to come to you and ask what's going on. Fellows serving unusually long hours, we understand that there are events that they may be working on, that like maybe there is a week where they do have one event that adds evening hours and changes things. That is understandable. We ask that you just keep in communication with us about that, so that if we get questions from the Mass Service Alliance, we can refer to them and let them know what is going on. Any timesheets that are submitted particularly late, they have concerns about. The idea being that if the service hours were completed and then the timesheet wasn't filled out for a week, then are you really so sure that those were the hours that actually happened? And similarly, if timesheets are approved instantaneously, if a student submits their hours and then you're in there and immediately just click approve, they are going to feel like you aren't actually accurately reviewing the student hours. So keep those things in mind as you go through hours submission. I think that is all I have for now. But are there any questions about timesheets, about time, about our AmeriCorps partnership overall? Anything I can answer for folks? Great. I see Rachel's hand, so I'll shoot to her, and then I will hand things off to Corey to talk more specifically about mentorship.
Yeah, this usually gets asked, so I think Corey or Edie, if you want to answer it for the group, what happens if my fellow gets sick and they need to miss a week or more of service?
Yeah.
So that is a very good question. Fellows have up to a year from the point that their service begins to complete their service hours. We, for obvious reasons, want them to complete that by the end of the semester, mostly because it is harder to keep in communication with them, harder for them to balance their schedule once they go back to their home institution. However, if they are below hours, there is the opportunity to extend service and maybe work remotely. They do have to complete their service in the same role, in the same position at the same organization. So if they get to the end of the semester and they haven't met their hours, we may want to talk with you and work with you to have them complete a few more hours with you going forward. If that's impossible and it's completely impossible for the student to meet their hours, they will not get credit for the Siegel Award. They will not be able to fully exit from the AmeriCorps program, and they are considered a non-member with AmeriCorps at that point. So it has bad consequences, which is why we're oversharing on time information and really trying to double underline that.
That was a great question, Rachel. It's true. It does get answered or asked a lot. And Edie, thank you for doing the the heavy lifting of covering AmeriCorps and also just the program. I really appreciate you.
I do see a couple more questions flooding in. So
Let's go for it.
we have a few Saturday events this semester and want to verify if that's okay. Yes, they are able to work on Saturdays. Make sure you're in communication with the fellow, our fellows. Again, many are coming from other states and other regions of the country. Some are coming from Taiwan. They're wanting to use their weekends to explore Boston and the surrounding area. Now, that is not the primary thing that they are here to do. The primary thing they are here to do is fulfill a capacity building fellowship with you. So if you do have Saturday work and Saturday hours, work that into their schedule, talk to them, let us know about it, and we will make sure that that's happening. How does this being out for a week because they're sick differ for fellows from NTU considering their visa status? It's actually a little bit more flexible with NTU students. They do have to complete a certain number of hours. It is a little bit less strict as far as that goes. So if there is sick time, whatever your sick time policy is in your organization, I would say you can run with that same sick time policy. And we're going to want to make sure our fellows are communicating with you if they are sick and not going to be at the office, that they are able to make up that work in some way. So just stay in regular communication with your fellow and with us.
Great. Thank you all. Thank you all for your attention and your questions. You're answering good ones, which means you're really paying attention, and we appreciate that for sure. I'm going to step in and talk about a lighter topic, which is mentorship. And Edie had already mentioned that that is a key ingredient to our program. It's the secret sauce. Students have shared a whole bunch of their thoughts with us. So we collect a lot of data. And so I wanted to share it with you here. Your mentorship is critical to their success, and students have valued supportive mentors and the opportunity to do meaningful work. They enjoy building their mentors' trust, and they appreciate opportunities to develop problem-solving skills. Overall, they do perform better with regular check-ins. So that is part of our program. Helpful advice that they have received in the past is you are the CEO of your own project. You are young, but you still can make a difference, and you don't have to be perfect. And I highlight this last one because perfectionism is really a devil that continues to follow these young people around. I would say that it's probably kind of part of our culture too. I experience it. And I just think it's really helpful for you to be clear about what's expected of them, and so that they know that they don't have to be perfect in order to do incredible work. It's also a sort of a key facet of mentorship to just encourage them to try new and hard things. You know, you never know that you can do something hard unless you try it and you succeed, or, you know, maybe even if you fail, like that you can get back up again. This program really works and strives to build professional confidence, and you're a key element of that. Students did mention a few things that were challenging, so I'll mention them here. Edie had, really talked about the hours requirement, and it's true. It's better to hit the ground running and really have 30 hours a week from the very beginning, so you don't feel like you fall behind. And that is, especially in the beginning, something that you can really help them with. Students struggled if they didn't, have a structured environment in terms of like, being told like what they can do and when, again, especially in the beginning, and not knowing when people are in the office. So if you guys don't have something in place, like either through your calendar or, automated emails that happen, just letting your fellow know who's going to be out so that they know, oh, I can't contact that person, and they can plan around it. Especially you, as Edie had said, like if you're on vacation, it's totally fine. We don't ask you to be there the entire time. Like that is not a requirement. But if you can designate somebody else for them to go to in your absence, that is incredibly helpful. And the last is just busy mentors that do not delegate tasks. These are a very empathetic bunch of young people. And so when they see you struggling, they really want to help. So if you can think and for a moment and just be like, oh, you know what, I could actually offload this to my fellow, they would really appreciate it because they really do want to help and make an impact. These are helpful behaviors that people, found good for them. And that is, I'll just highlight a few because there's a bunch. Being accessible and encouraging questions, especially at the beginning. Being curious about your fellows' past experiences and, what skills they might like to learn with you during the semester. Demonstrating through your own actions about how to give and receive positive and constructive feedback. And then just sharing the details of your own professional journey. They want to know what challenges you faced. They're up against it themselves. There's a challenging work environment for young people right now. They really would benefit from hearing like how you address challenges in your own personal lives. So this is how mentorship impacts the fellows, but how can it impact you? We did just immediately talk about the capacity building that they're helping with your organization, but they also this is a program that can help you strengthen your own skills, your communication, your time and project management skills, and your mentorship skills. Mentors consistently say that one of the most meaningful parts of the program is just connecting with and teaching and learning from a young adult. So these are particularly what mentors have commented on. They valued gaining supervisory experience about a person who's starting off in their career and, appreciated the ability to reflect back about how they felt when they were starting out and then give guidance to a new person about that. And found it particularly gratifying to build that mentor-mentee relationship, and really shape a mentee's growth. From my personal experience, it's one of my favorite parts of my job is just hearing from the two of you, your mentors and fellows, about like the positive relationships that they have developed with one another. You heard me use the term SITC advisor. That's something that Rachel, myself, and Emily all are. And your advisor will actually send you an email after this orientation introducing themselves because you have somebody who's dedicated to you, your fellow, and your host site. And we're here to support you. So we will help support you on the mentorship journey. We answer questions. We help you hone in on your mentorship skills. And we can facilitate difficult conversations. So if you'd like help with them, or if you'd like us to sit in on them, either virtually or in person, that's something we're open to. It does happen that complex issues arise. And so we're supported by the student support team, which has Emily at the head. She's a licensed social worker. And we also have another licensed social worker on there. And it's a really great, safe, and confidential place where we talk about issues and game out, like what we could do and what we could try in order to protect, in order to improve the situation overall. So we lean on each other. We're a team that is small and we have a lot of trust, and we like each other. So that helps an awful lot. We do have, let's see, just we don't know if we need to help you if we don't know that issues exist. So we really aim to catch issues early and deal with them so that we don't leave you exasperated and just like wondering what to do, like pulling out your hair out. We do have several mechanisms that are baked into the program that you can tell us if there is a problem. So the first is like these biweekly updates that you'll fill out every 2 weeks. They're a Google form. They're pretty lightweight, but the questions in there are meant to surface issues. We talked a lot about timesheets, but they're a great way for us to figure out, like what's going on too, and take the temperature of the situation overall. You are going to attend one site visit this semester, and that will be with an SITC advisor, yourself, and your mentee. And again, we're asking a bunch of questions just to see how the internship is going. And we could facilitate difficult conversations in those, or celebrate wins. Either way, whichever is happening, we can handle it. You are going to fill out 2 evaluation forms this semester. The first one in the midterm is lighter weight. And then you share that feedback with your advisee and just let them know how they're doing. The end of the semester evaluation form that you fill out is a little bit beefier version of the midterm. And that's where you actually give a physical grade for their internship performance and their special project deliverables, because the students are all getting credit for this semester, which is another way that they're being compensated for participating. It's a unique part of our program, and I really appreciate that. So we have covered a lot of information already, and I know Edie paused for questions, but anything that has either come up in the chat or that anyone wants to ask, I'm happy to talk now before we go into a little brief activity.
One thing I want to add, just as a sort of caveat or a thing to keep in mind, and that is that these are young folks, college students. For many of these students, this is going to be their first real office job, maybe their first job period. And so some things that may seem obvious to you about office culture or working in an office may be things that they have never even considered. So keep in contact with them, talk with them. Don't shy away from constructive criticism, giving them things to work on. Don't shy away from celebrating when they're doing something well too, though. The sort of combination of giving them clear and direct things to work on and to improve on, and highlighting when they are doing something well is really, really critical to their success.
You just queued me up really well for this next activity, Edie. Thank you. So we're just going to do a brief activity to just get our problem solving juices flowing and to just demonstrate how we as SITC advisors could possibly help you with a situation that has happened in the past. So I'm just going to start by reading the scenario, and then I'd love for just a couple volunteers to chime in about how they would possibly go about taking the first step for this. So pardon me, I just got to move something out of my screen so I can read this. The scenario is this. Your fellow does not seem excited by the work that you do at your organization, and it's difficult to engage with them because they never express enthusiasm. They ask you questions and they rarely follow up for clarification. Your team members have noticed that your fellow has not made a genuine effort to connect with them, and overall they feel like your fellow is demonstrating a lack of interest and failing to engage with their internship work. So before I put on my SITC advisor hat and offer some suggestions, I just love to see, what are people thinking about what first step they could take in this situation? And I will scroll down in the chat so I can read those too. Ask questions to take the temperature. I like that. I like that. Yeah. Just opening the lines of communication is super smart. And keeping them open because as Edie said, this is their usually this is their first professional experience, their first office job. Anyone else want to suggest something about how you could start?
I can chime in.
Please.
Um, I'm having some issues with my camera, so you will just have to bear with me. What I like to do is just understand like what are their goals? Like why did they join College for Social Innovation? What are their personal interests? And find some relevancy between what they are interested in personally, professionally, and how that relates to the work that we're doing before we then follow up about, what they're doing as an intern.
Super smart. This is a generation that really cares about the why. That is a very intuitive way to start. Nice suggestion. Let's see, Lauren, you just mentioned the why too. That's amazing. Yeah. Let's see, Seth. In a private conversation with a fellow, make sure that they're clear on expectations and then ask them probing questions about what their goals are. Discuss how the work that we want them to do can help them meet those goals. Yes, that's wonderful to just make that human connection and actually care about what they care about. Let's see. Oh, and Rachel, do you want to help in?
Yeah, I was just going to use this time to highlight, and we will talk about this later in the orientation, but just to identify myself as a resource for you all. I think sometimes mentors can think that a lot of the things that their fellows in confiding with them that is outside of their internship or is outside of the program is really stuck with that mentor, and it can be feel a little bit powerless. If there's something going on in their housing that is causing problems, like a roommate issue or anything like that, you can always feel free to reach out to your advisor, and they will connect you with me. We do have supports for pieces of the program that you are not directly involved with, for those fellows as well.
Oh, go
Just
ahead.
an anecdotal thought on this idea of fellow engagement. One of the things that's interesting working with young folks and college age folks is seeing trends and cultural shift over time. And really, in the last couple of semesters, I do a guest lecture every semester, and in the last couple of semesters, it has been like to a room of what appears to be blank and empty stairs. And just being totally honest, that feels like I'm getting nothing back from them at all. And I can walk out of that class and feel like, wow, that none of that sunk in. And then those same students a week later will come up to me and say, hey, that was one of the best lectures I've had. And like that, I really took a lot away from that. It really helped me to do this project. So like they are absorbing more and they don't express it in the same way that I feel like my peers do. So it's interesting to see that shift happening and just a thing to be aware of that it is a younger generation that is expressing things in a little bit of a different way.
I'm going to echo you there, Edie, because I feel like they're getting a lot thrown at them. They come into the city, they have to figure out roommates, they have to figure out how to cook and how to get groceries for themselves. They have challenged themselves to step out of their comfort zone, but now when they actually have to do it, it's a whole different thing than saying that that's what they want. They're starting with you, they've got new colleagues, they are navigating a commute. Like it is a lot of information. If you just picture like a gallon of water being dumped over their head, that is sort of like the equivalent of the experience that they're having. And they don't really process it right away. So like, yeah, you're going to get, it's going to be a slow burn. And I hope that all of you, get the kudos that you deserve for being great mentors at the end. I really hope you do. But along the way, it's a lot. And it really takes a lot of processing, emotional processing on their part, to get there. So if you get the blank stare, yeah, you reach out with your empathetic hearts. I have to say you all have them because like this is the most empathetic responses that we've ever had to this question, and I'm impressed. I'll just offer a few more takes on like what you could start with. You all like leaned into curiosity, so I don't feel like I have to hit that one hard. You could offer a specific example, saying like, "Hey, I know you're interested in social media and you balked at this assignment. Like what's going on? Like I'd like to engage with you and see like how we can make this challenge like more interesting for you." And just collaboration in terms of like this actually exercises as an example of collaboration. Like here's a problem, like how can we work it together? I love the thing that you had said, Seth, about taking them aside. I think paying attention to both your work style and their work style and how they mesh or don't mesh is important. And a lot of people prefer to get feedback not in front of a group. So having them be somewhere private, that really resonates with me as well. Yeah, I feel like again, you're an empathetic group, which is amazing. And it is important to know that lack of engagement just could be overwhelmed. So keeping that level of conversation going. Most of you had mentioned something like that in terms of like, engaging with them, being interested in them, just having that open line of communication so that they feel comfortable coming to you and saying, I'm really overwhelmed and I'm kind of shutting down. I don't know what to do next, is very, very helpful. Um, okay. Thank you. Thank you all for being risk takers. I appreciate both the verbal and the stuff in the chat. That was a good back and forth. And before we break for a little bit of break right around noon, I'm going to pass it off to Rachel to do special projects.
Thank you, Corey. All right, so yeah, we're going to talk about special projects. I know Edie touched a little bit on them, talking about like the internship experience overall. We're going to go a little bit deeper into special projects now. So as a reminder, this project is supposed to take up at least 40% of the fellows' time. So they should be spending 40% of their time at their internship working on something that relates to this special project. And again, this is meant to be a capacity building project for you all. So just a quick note and encouragement to really kind of flesh out what you're looking for before your fellow arrives. Because the more you set them up for a clear idea of what this project is going to look like, the better and probably the better result you're going to get out of the work that they're doing this semester. Just some few high-level reminders, right? This is something that, again, is supposed to be helping you. It should not be something that's just make work or busy work or anything like that. We also want the fellows to take the lead in planning and implementing this project. That'll look different for each of you and depending on what type of project your fellow is working on. And this does not mean that we're not encouraging collaboration, but we really want to put them in the driver's seat with this project. It's really why are we doing that is because we want them to take responsibility for the project and really experience the successes and failures that come along with working through something as large as this. When we talk about their special project presentations, which they give to a panel of our staff members at the end of their service, they'll also be sharing it with all of you. One of the things we asked them to talk about was their roadblocks. What was challenging throughout this process? Maybe it was my mentor had to go on a leave, or maybe it was I could not find the data that I needed to kind of finalize this project. It can be a lot of different things. And that is really kind of a show your work piece of that presentation that is really valuable for us when we're reviewing them. We also want this to have clearly articulated objectives and goals. We're going to ask them to do that right at the beginning of the semesters, really start working on what are the objectives and goals of this project. And that is something that you should be really collaborating with them on as they start to build that framework. And at the end, we want them to produce a deliverable that is easily evaluated by both you as well as us. They are getting a big grade for this project, as I'm sure you can assume. It is a large part of their becoming a problem solver grade. So it is just as important to them from a grade perspective as it is for them from a developmental perspective as well. Just a note, because this can come up sometimes as well. we would like you to ask your SITC advisor or a member of the internships team, just give us a heads up if they're going to be working on additional projects. We don't want to overload them in the same way that we don't want to underload them when it comes to work load. So if you're looking at having them work on 2 or 3 smaller projects, that is totally possible, but you just want to run that by us. And also, you need to let us know immediately if you are going to do a special project or your special project is changing from your host application. I want to pause there because I know this is a little bit of a new thing. Corey or Edie, do you want to talk a little bit about um, changing of special projects and what the parameters are for that, given our new requirement?
I can address the college credit part, and that is that some people have gotten the green light to attend our program because of the special project specifically fills like a need of their major. And so if the special project were to change, they might need to coordinate with their faculty advisor in order to make sure that they still get credit for the program. So yeah, that's in for the college piece. That's why it's important for us to hear like what's going on with the project. Edie, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, just on the other end of that is with Mass Service Alliance and AmeriCorps, where if a special project changes, all of the special projects are part of a report package we share. And so if one changes mid-semester and it comes up during our audit, we need to be able to justify that the special project was still capacity building, still supported a community in need. And so we just want to make sure that everything is going to align with the folks at AmeriCorps.
Perfect. Thank you for that qualification. All right, moving on. All right, so just popping this graphic up again to kind of give an idea of what that time breakdown looks like. And this is kind of the roadmap throughout the weeks of the program. So in weeks 2 to 5, you're defining that special project. So that is really talking about the goals, objectives, deliverables. They're going to have an assignment that is called a special project work plan, where we ask them to kind of show us some of those goals and those benchmarks along with due dates, times they want to hit those marks. So that will be an important assignment that we hope you collaborate with them on, and that'll come up at the beginning of the semester. And we also want you to officially review and approve that work plan assignment to make sure that you have eyes on it and you're agreeing with what they're submitting to us. So we have just continuity of information from your SITC advisor, your fellow, as well as the mentor, and we're all on the same page. Week 6 to 12 is going to be the big bulk of implementation and working on those deliverables. So you are going to be supporting their execution of the project, and you can make adjustments as necessary. As I said, maybe your fellow is going to be surveying a group of community members, and they're really struggling to get enough respondents to that survey. That could be a roadblock that you might need to work through with them during that 6 to 12, the week 6 to 12 that they're working on their implementation and streamlining their deliverables. Week 13, so 2 weeks before the end of the program, is when they're actually going to be finalizing their special project and submitting it to us as a staff. So you, again, are going to be reviewing that, and then they're going to deliver that to the internships team and some other staff members during our Friday class and receive a grade for that. And then week 15 is when we're going to get around to grading those presentations, those special projects in general. So just know that you will be contributing to that grade at the end of the semester, as well as your SITC advisor. All right, I'm going to talk about a few buckets of special projects that most of your projects will fall into. All right, so the first one is a strategic project. That is going to be something that is advancing your organizational goals through activities like outreaching, networking, planning, and it's usually benefiting internal stakeholders. So some examples of that you might see at your organization are things like gathering grant information, creating operation manuals, planning for some sort of community outreach, or creating any sort of internal tool or application. which is a great transition to an example of a past special project that fit into this category. So Habib is a alumni of our program that created an AI case study generator. So this is actually an application working with leading cities that helped create and promote compelling stories about solutions that the startup had already created or implemented. So he did this by really doing a lot of technical stuff that I still don't fully understand. But it was extremely impressive. And it did culminate in this web application. So why was this helpful? Oh, can you go back just one
Of
second?
course, yes, my apologies.
So they can now use all of these case studies that were not previously consolidated to market their programs and attract new partners. So capacity building in that way. On the next slide is just kind of an overview of what Habib did and some of the deliverables and how he measured success during that program. So really awesome, really high level stuff. And let's move on to our next category. All right, so report or analysis is also something that a lot of your organizations could probably use some help working on. So this is either involving analysis of some sort of process or procedure, writing a report about an issue, or any sort of project. These are things that aren't necessarily implementation based. They're not creating a solution, but they're recommending solutions. So we know a lot of work at your organizations fall into this category. I won't read through the examples, but on the next slide, I'll show you a very awesome example, which is Ashley, who is one of our NTU students, was working at Tatum Robotics. And she was helping them close the communication gap faced by deaf and blind individuals. So the organization developed the first standalone tactile sign language device. And Ashley was actually involved in assembling the first parts of this robotic hand, which is extremely impressive. And she also finalized her project by creating a formal engineering report that really documented the results of this robotic hand. And on the next slide, we can show you a little bit of what that looked like. So a lot of different phases to this project, right? So starting with some modeling online, working through some documentation based on what they found from that, and then into testing, and finally creating outreach material. So this was really like from very comprehensive from the beginning, kind of designing to the end of, really getting this marketed to their stakeholders for Tatum Robotics, which is super, super exciting. On to our next one, direct service. So this is something that fellows are doing really directly with the community or their organization. It usually involves planning or implementing either some sort of event or some sort of program process, whether it be new or improving something that already existed at your organization, revamping, anything like that. So that can be things like creating lesson plans, facilitating classes, workshops, or building things like art installations. So moving on to our example, this was a project from Louis D. Brown Peace Institute. So Zoe actually created an interactive art installation that was really highlighting LDBPI's goal of educational justice. And a part of this, she started by asking staff members to respond to prompts in a series of tiny books, which you'll see in the next page. And then she created all of those responses that she collected into a final art sculpture that is present at LDBPI to this day, I think. This was super impressive. I remember when Zoe brought this up or presented this in her special project presentation, and just really, really impressed at the thoughtfulness that went into creating something like this. So that is another great example of a special project in the direct service category. For our final category, it is event planning. So I think kind of intuitive, right? So this is usually a singular event that's something really big for your organization or something that is semi-recurring, like a biannual event or things like that. And usually the fellows are working on everything from outreaching to participants, getting involved with the operations and logistics of executing that event, helping actually run the event, and usually doing some sort of report or, post debrief document of how the event went and setting up somebody who might need to replicate the event in the future for more success with lessons learned and things like that. So this could look like a career fair, some sort of large networking event for your organization, either like a volunteer appreciation event or even a fundraiser. All right, so moving on to an awesome example of event planning, we'll talk about Eric Lidos, who was at the Williams Agency. He ended up really orchestrating, organizing a hot sauce competition and comedy show kind of fused into one that was really also extremely successful. So he actually worked with an external organization called Rhythm and Spice to get the Williams Agency access to their hot sauce festival. In working with them, he was able to put on this event where comedians ate different levels of spicy wings and then tried to perform a minute of stand-up with hot sauce in their mouth. It was a really great success. And Eric did a lot of different things to promote this. So the marketing piece was really impressive. He created little QR codes and gave them out to all the staff and posted them all throughout the student apartments as well. And really ended up getting a great turnout from doing things like that. So again, event planning, also another bucket of special project that your fellow might be working on. If you don't think something fits particularly neatly into any of these categories, that is also okay. So then social media is another one. It's going to be involving like creation or management of any content on your social media accounts, maybe even creating a social media account for your organization for the first time. So that is another thing that our fellows could be working on. You could think about LinkedIn, Instagram, or just photo, video content in general is also in this category. Our example. Awesome. Yeah, so this is something that Emory created. So this was a really impressive calendar and social media kind of campaign that Emory had put together. And I don't know the exact number. Corey might have put it on the last slide, but the views, the engagement that this Instagram got jumped from really low. I think it was in the 200s to 500s to over 100,000 people were viewing this and engaging with this Instagram account after the work that Emory put in. So huge capacity building project for her organization. In addition to increasing engagement, she also did a lot of work on their website, updating the language on their website, creating and posting content from the Instagram that directly linked to the organization's website, as well as putting together a local gift guide as kind of a cherry on top. We'll refer to it that way. So again, a really impressive project that the fellow worked on throughout the course of their semester.
All
All
right.
right.
We're back to questions. Gosh, this is amazing. I didn't see any in the chat. I saw a lot of reactions to like the amazing projects that people have put in, but I didn't see specific questions. But before we break, if anybody has anything they'd like to say or type in the chat, we can respond before we head out for like 5 minutes. Oh, Carrie, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I just two of those projects I happen to know more intimately. And I just wanted to share with the other mentors that the numbers aren't entirely accurate. Some of the information's a little bit off, and I don't mean that as a criticism, but to say that it's not quite as intimidating as that. They sounded terrifyingly intimidating. Like, how would I ever create such a, like, how would I structure such a thing? How could I possibly mentor such a thing that would create such incredible results, that would create such a, it wasn't that. It was beautiful, it was amazing, it was important. Both of the people that I know about and had direct involvement with, we were infinitely grateful to be able to work with them. We were infinitely grateful for the work they did, and it did build a lot of good and important stuff. But it wasn't quite as, those just felt a little bit overwhelming. And so if anybody's feeling like, did I just jump in the deep end? It wasn't all that. And it was still fantastic, and it was important, and it was wonderful. And we are back because we have loved working with you guys. And the students that have come to us have been a phenomenal asset. So I just wanted to like kind of bring the bar down a little bit to where it may not feel quite as intimidating.
I like that. I like that comment very much. Thank you, Carrie. We're so happy that you're back. I haven't heard your voice before. This is amazing.
I have
Okay.
a habit of talking too much, and so I try to like stay out, like to not.
Okay, on that note, I'd love for everybody to just be able to take a bio break. We're at 12:10 now, so let's come back at like 12 15, let's say, and then we can wrap it up. And I want to make sure that we get you out of here at 1 at the latest. So that I think will accomplish that. I'm just gonna stop recording and we will see you back here at 12:15 and we'll wrap up the second part. Beautiful. You can take it away whenever you're ready.
All
Welcome
right.
back,
Well,
everybody.
welcome back, everyone. Again, my name is Erin. I work on the recruitment side of things, really trying to find all of the students that we actually place with all of you. So I really am working on the campus champion side. So our campus champions are similar to our mentors, but they are on our home campuses. So I work with, and my team works with people who are like at University of Vermont or at Wheaton, for example, either in the study away office or in the career center. Just as a couple of examples, those are usually the offices that we actually are running the program out of. We are considered a domestic study away program, particularly for the students who are in the US who are studying here. Obviously, for our NTU students, we're an international experience for them. But we really are always trying to get more students from all of our campuses. We work with about 13 universities, partner with them, including National Taiwan University in Taiwan. And as some of you might know, we have gap semester students as well. So those are students who are either taking a break from college right now or who are recent high school graduates and are taking a year before they do a college experience. We also work with student ambassadors. Those are students, again, who have graduated from our program, but are back at their home campus this semester. We have ambassadors at Wheaton College, at Centre College, and at University of Vermont. Sometimes we have ambassadors at other campuses, just is the way it worked out for us this upcoming semester. Those students are really a huge asset to us because the majority of the reason why students are coming to Semester in the City or doing our other program is because of alumni, is because of ambassadors. It's because they've spoken with a peer. It's one of the biggest drivers of students coming to do Semester in the City. When students apply, we have a full application, just like what you complete as mentors. Students have to complete a full application as well. We ask a ton of questions in that, such as like what type of internship they're looking for, what type of skills they want to build, what type of skills are they already bringing to the table. This is obviously self-reported. We ask about their major, we ask about any major credit that they might require, and then we actually follow that up with an interview. In that interview, we actually just redid this whole process. We have a brand new interview as of last semester, and then I tweaked it even more for this upcoming semester, so that we really are getting at the qualities of the student that we find are successful in Semester in the City. Some of the things that came out of a recent meeting is that we're looking for students who are compassionate, who are curious, they're willing to learn, they're open-minded. These are just a couple of the key characteristics of students that we're really looking for. We also are trying to find students who care about your organizations, care about doing good in the world, and care about making positive change. Students who apply early are put through our new concierge matching process. They get an extra conversation after the interview with one of our colleagues, Giselle. She might have reached out to you directly. She might have been one of the main drivers of connecting you with a student. I think she matched about 12 to 13 students early this semester, which was incredible. And then we also have some of our regular deadline students. So those are students who apply by November 15th or later on. And we match them based on, first come, first serve, whatever internship we have left. But we always take into account, again, major credit needs. That's a huge one for us. We're always trying to make sure that students get the credit that they need in order to graduate. We never want this program to set them back and cause them to have to take additional credits outside of semester in the city. We also look at what they're interested in and what they're passionate about. It's a big piece of it for us as well. You have all done the matching process already, so I won't go into that in detail, but I will say that the concierge matching process really allows us to find best fit students with what you're looking for. So if you already know that you would like to have another fellow in the springtime, or you know that you either want to continue the work that your fellow is going to do this fall, or maybe you have a different project in mind, we really, really encourage you to apply as early as possible. We can then go as the recruiters on campus and say, okay, at Lucy Brown Peace Institute, we know that they are going to want a Generation Peace Fellow again. And this is what the job description is going to be. And the project is going to be very similar to this art installation that we gave an example of. And so we can go on campus and say, hey, is this something that you're interested in? If so, we think that this would be a perfect internship for you. If you're looking to build skills that really, a couple of majors that come to the top of my mind are psychology, social work, sociology, even some history majors might be interested in doing some type of work like this. Those are all majors that I think could relate just to that specific project as an example. In other cases, students might not actually care about getting the major credit and they just need general credits. And so we have more flexibility. So again, the earlier you apply to host a fellow, the better it is for us, the better it is for you. We'll be able to start making connections so much sooner.
Would you like to move to the next one? Sure.
Okay, so for a lot of students, I know Edie and Rachel and Corey have already mentioned this, but for a lot of the fellows, this might be their first internship. And in some cases, if they're juniors and seniors, this might not be the case, but especially for some of our sophomores or for our gap semester students, and even our NTU students, this is their first time coming to the US and doing an internship in the US. So we really are looking to you to help get them involved in networking, helping them understand what that even looks like and what that means. And in most cases, it really is just relationship building and having small casual conversations. A lot of times students can be nervous about this. Again, being in their first internship, being in their first real professional setting with work. Some of them might have worked in retail or food service in the past, but this might be their first office job. And that can be really intimidating. So really just helping them know that it's pretty low stakes, but networking is important. So introducing them to everybody in the office, making sure that they have tasks that they feel like they can own, but know that they can come to you for support. That is super important. I think all of that is stuff that Corey's already covered too. So I can kind of give an overview of the cohort now. So we have 31 fellows coming to Semester in the City this fall. Super exciting. These are a couple of our fellows who are going to be community leaders this upcoming semester. So we have Declan and Sam. We have students from 8 of our institutions represented. So those are a couple of examples of the schools they're coming from. You can see the different numbers of seniors to juniors and gap students being represented. So we have a high number of sophomores and juniors this upcoming semester. And we also have a very diverse cohort this upcoming semester and I think this is one of our highest numbers for first gen students. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but just looking at this compared to last semester, this jumped a significant amount. So we're really excited about that. We have 17 different majors represented and at least 7 different languages being spoken by our students this upcoming semester. So we're really excited to have them work with all of you, and we're really, really looking forward to seeing the work that they get to do with you.
That's awesome, Erin. I love looking at that. I mean, I know like it's just data, but it is very interesting to know like who's coming in and like who we should be prepared to support. That's awesome. Thank you. Um, Speaking of program support, I guess I just queued myself up. We're going to talk about many different ways that we support the different fellows in this program, and I'm just going to kick it off with the mentor part. I write a weekly mentor newsletter that comes out on Tuesdays. And typically, mentors find the to-do and the action items and reminders sections the most helpful. If you are curious about what the students are doing in their 2 classes, you can check out the This Week section. There's like summaries of like what's happening in the classes themselves. And some mentors do prefer to refer to that and then like build that into their one-on-one time with their students, so they kind of connect their classwork with the internship work. Let's see. I will provide links in this newsletter to the mentor support resources page, and that is what I'm going to talk about next. You can find this off the main CFSI page under partners. It's down at the very bottom. You can see it on the top right of the slide. It does have a mentor FAQ and links to documents that are chunked by parts of the semester. So what you're seeing here is the start of the semester list, but we also like tailored it to mid and end of semester as well, the things that you need to know. I would say call your attention just particularly to the onboarding checklist and what should I do before my fellow's first day. Those are particularly helpful at the very beginning. And again, providing links to those in the email that I send to you after this. At the very bottom of that mentor resources page is a section specifically about student support issues. And, you know, SITC, as I mentioned before, is a great time for you to strengthen your own mentorship skills. And we built this whole section around that. Bless you, Erin. Bless you. So this is, you know, ways to support them for building time management skills, learning how to step into the role of project owner, and, you know, coaching them to build their professional confidence. We have written support documentation, but there's also 5 training videos. So sometimes like if I'll put on a training video in the background and then like do some work, that's something that you can queue up and do as well. And that information, and we have information specifically tailored for those of you who are supporting GAP students who may be slightly younger or have a little bit less professional experience, and also NTU students who have traveled an amazing amount. I think it's 10,000 miles to spend time with us for 3 months. It's really incredible. Yeah, let's talk about risk takers. We're constantly adding to this page, so if there's some resource that you don't see, I would be very interested to hear what you need, and we can build that and put it up here. Students will also be taking 2 classes this semester. That's in addition to their internship, and we are constantly trying to like connect internship and class experience more closely. The Social Innovators Toolbox class we mentioned happens on Wednesday afternoon from 4 to 7. So it is an evening class. They do get dinner during that class. Our 2 co-teachers, Laura and Linda, are returning from last semester, and they've made some significant changes to the syllabus that I think is going to make a big difference in the way people are receiving information. That class has a specific human-centered design component. They have a project. They focus on persuasive storytelling, and also I delve into the history of social justice movements. Becoming a problem solver is a class that I'm coordinating, and that meets on Friday mornings. That's part of the reason why we don't have people report to their internships on Friday. We do a team teaching approach. So we'll pull from the CFSI staff and, you know, our own professional networks to tap people to come in to teach different things. Like for instance, Erin teaches the course on career development and like developing your LinkedIn profile. And we have a moment for advising circles as well. Actually, more than a moment. It's usually between 15 and 30 minutes. And that is a time for our mini cohorts to get together. So they're led by all the SITC advisors, and we can just kind of problem solve and sort of decompress from the week, see if people have questions, help them out, and kind of like more of a peer and advice approach. Let's see. Oh, student support and wellness. Am I passing this off to you, Rachel? Is this you?
That is
Great.
me. Thank you, Corey. I just also, the great question came up in the chat
Oh,
before
nice.
we move on about student newsletters. So the students do receive a newsletter weekly on Tuesdays as well. Corey, I think one thing we can coordinate when that goes out. So the students and the mentors are getting it at the same time, or the students may be getting it before, as Annalisa kind of pointed out. That is definitely an improvement we're making. One thing we can ask of you all is we have a low open rate for our student newsletter. Some students do not pay as much attention to it as we think they should, because it does have a lot of valuable information, very similar to the newsletter that Corey creates for you all. So if they are feeling lost or asking you, feeling anxious about what is expected of them, that's one thing you can remind them to check, as well as reaching out to one of us, especially when it comes to classes or things like that. Um, awesome. So talking about how we support your fellows from a wellness perspective. So there are a few different things we do. As Corey mentioned, we have a student support team. We meet weekly, and we talk about anything from internship concerns to financial concerns to concerns in housing, anything like that. We cover in that confidential group. We also talk about different ways that we can improve our academic support for students. So academic advising, that is also supplemented by Corey, myself, Emily, as well as Linda and Laura, the two Wednesday class teachers, having office hours. So students are always encouraged to meet with us for that. And we also have Robin. Robin is pictured on this slide. In addition to being a licensed social worker, Robin is also a career advancement coach for us. So if students have specific questions about their personal trajectory and want to talk to Robin about different avenues they could explore, anything related to what comes next for them, she is a resource for them as well. So they can always set up a meeting with her. Mental health support, we did mention that Robin as well as Emily are licensed social workers. So they are available. They do not do one-on-one therapy with our students. So that's just a note. They are working as case managers to help support with referrals and getting people connected to mental health supports if they need that. But they will not be acting as therapists for the entirety of the program. But students can definitely use them as a resource in addition to TELUS Health. So TELUS Health is a free mental health support system. It's free for the students. We actually pay quite a pretty penny for our subscription. That they can access 24/7. They can access mental health providers with certain specifications or specific areas of issues they may be struggling. They can access those through this platform. Again, 24/7, virtual, on the phone, any sort of support they need. This is an underutilized resource we find. So again, just if you are noticing that your fellow is struggling, you can also encourage them to take a closer look at TELUS Health. We talked about the student support team, and I talked about Robin. Again, Robin also supports Erin in our Friday class, teaching a really comprehensive workshop on LinkedIn, resume building, informational interviewing, and networking. So that is a class that comes a little bit later in the semester, but is really, really helpful for our students from a career development perspective as well. All right, moving on to finances. Oh, I have one question from Jessica about roommates impacting this main. Yes, so this is a great question, Jessica, and this was kind of what I was alluding to earlier. So I am self-identifying as the person to support with any roommate issues. This is not an uncommon thing. Usually they're relatively benign issues. But again, this is an area where we really struggle with communication from our fellows. They sometimes wait later to bring these things up to us. So this is a great example of something that if it really is impacting your fellow in a way that's making it difficult for them to do their work, or you are personally worried about them, you can reach out to your SITC advisor, who will reach out to me. We do facilitate conversations from a restorative approach when it comes to anything like that. And this is something we work on in that student support team a lot as well. So don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to support with any of those issues. And again, I will give you my contact information at the end of this as well. I think I do probably know the instance that you were talking about from last year, and that those do get handled. Usually they do come to us through the fellow, but sometimes they come to the mentor before they come to us. So it is helpful to know that information again if it's something you're worried about.
Rachel, did you also want to answer the question about mandated reporters?
Yes, great question. We are mandated reporters as well as you all. We are all mandated reporters.
Thank you. Erin, did I just interrupt you? Okay, sweet. Queuing up Edie.
Awesome. Yes. I'm going to jump in just to talk a little bit about some of the financial support we provide to students. This isn't really anything that you need to worry about, but it's just to give you a little bit of a background on what your fellows are working with in the background here. We provide a living allowance to fellows. This is provided through our AmeriCorps membership. So students receive a $595 living allowance paid out in 3 installments across the semester. And we work with them through our launch week and throughout the semester to budget to use that effectively throughout the semester for meals and anything they might need it for. That is a payment that is made automatically to them. They receive a check during one of our classes. It's, like I said, spread out in 3 installments, and is no real prerequisite for that other than that they are in good standing with the organization. So if they are not communicating with us, we may hold the check to try and get them to talk with us, that sort of thing. Reimbursement stipend. We also provide, in addition to that $595 living allowance, we provide a $585 food reimbursement as students make purchases for restaurants or grocery stores. They can submit their receipts to us and we will reimburse them up to $585. They also get an additional $40 for fitness and wellness costs. That could be something like a gym membership or workout equipment or medication, or not, no, sorry, not medication, over-the-counter medication type things, something you might get at a CVS. We also provide to them a full MBTA train and bus pass, an all access pass to the MBTA. That does not include the commuter rail. So there is that can be a little bit of an issue if you find that your fellow is going to have some transportation issues getting to their internship. Please talk with us and we'll try and work something out. We provide a light dinner on Wednesday evenings during our SITB classes. As I mentioned, we do budgeting support. And then we also have a fellow emergency fund. We can jump to the next slide here. Yeah. Oh,
Were you looking for that one?
there we go. That was the one I was looking for. Yes, it didn't fully load on my end before the first one there, the overview and process.
Cool. Oh, do you want to go back there? There we go.
Yeah. So, thank you. So our fellow emergency fund is a relatively small fund that we have built within our budget to allow for anything that comes up that is emergent. This can be anything from, sort of the most common things we hear are some food insecurity issues. We do try to work with students to get them stamp benefits, and work with them on the budgeting. However, it happens every semester that there's at least one student who needs a little extra support. We have a couple of different ways to do that, mostly through this emergency fund. One of the other common things we see is a student who might have family who passes away unexpectedly, or is very ill and they need to return home and need some help with the travel cost. We can't cover the full cost, but we will try and help to supplement that to make that easier for them. There is an application that fellows can fill out to request these funds. They're taken on a case by case basis, reviewed by our emergency fund committee, and then either approved or denied within 3 business days. If we don't approve them, we always give them reasons why and try and point them to other resources where they might be able to get some help. Um, all of this is a no repayment grant that we give them if it's needed. So it's if we do make an allowance through the emergency fund, we're not expecting the student to pay that back to us. Next slide. Things covered, as I mentioned, travel for unexpected medical or health issues, some temporary assistance with food insecurity, some temporary housing assistance. This might be a case where like something happens in the apartment, we need to rehouse them. We make that work. Travel related to death or illness of an immediate family member, or temporary support costs if there's a dangerous situation of some sort that arises. There are a lot of things we truly just cannot cover. We're not going to take on students' credit card debt or direct medical health insurance expenses. We are barred from doing that. Expenses for anything that's outside of our semester. Anything that is a penalty, a fine, or a parking ticket, we can't pay any sort of legal or criminal expenses. Anything that's considered non-essential, any household or furniture costs and expenses due to a lack of planning, budgeting, or overspending. So we want to make sure that our students are being responsible fiscally, and we work with them throughout the semester to do that. So if it is something that is not an emergent issue, we won't cover that. Do fellows receive any healthcare benefits besides the $40 reimbursement for health and wellness? Not directly from us, no. They are required to have health insurance when they come. They may receive something from their home institution, but we do not cover most healthcare benefits. And I think that's all I've got here.
Yeah, you're set. It's on to Rachel again.
Yeah, so just going to talk a little bit more about the community and engagement side of our programming. There's me again. Awesome. Yeah, we can go to the next one. So I just want to talk about another resource that some of you may be aware of, but not all of you, and that is our community leaders. So these are 2 to 3 students every semester that I supervise very closely. They support me with everything from planning and executing those community life events to making sure everything is safe and secure in the apartments. So they're a big part of encouraging that safety and best practices when we as staff members and you as mentors do not have direct eyes on them. As we mentioned, they do live in independent housing, which we think is a great benefit to this program and really supports them with fostering their independence. But there are challenges that come along with living on your own for the first time. And we see a lot of students struggle with differentiating dorm life from independent housing life, which is where they are housed during their time at semester in the city. The community leaders play a huge role in that because they are on the ground and they are kind of the first line of defense and the first support system for the fellows. And they are peers that are also engaging in the program. A lot of times this role is likened to a residence advisor or an RA at a home institution. And while there are a lot of similarities to that role, it is different in a few ways. One is that the community leaders are meant to be as fully integrated with the cohort as possible. We do not want them isolated or seen as people who are going to report unnecessarily things that are going on in the program. So they are really there to build community and foster community. And what I mean by that is they're not doing room checks. They're not, policing their other fellows during their time in the program. They're really there for support and to make sure that fellows are taking advantage of the other support systems that are in place during the program. They get trained in conflict resolution and emergency management, and they're going to help me deal with any issues that come up outside of internships and classes. There also is an on-call system that the fellows are, those two community leaders are a part of, as well as Corey, myself, Edie, and Emily. So if there was a significant emergency to happen after hours, they can always get in contact with a staff member. They're also going to receive a housing discount for the work that they're doing for us this semester. Moving on to our next slide.
Sorry, I was just answering a question. There we go. Cool. There.
Perfect. In case of emergency, so this is just, again, in case of emergency, as it says, this does not happen very often, but there are a few things you can do to help make sure you're prepared if there is an emergency concerning your fellow. The one thing is we encourage you to ask them for their emergency contact information in case of a medical emergency. That requires a direct ask from you to them. We cannot provide that information to you because it is protected, but it is good for you to have on hand in case you do need it and get authorization from them to call that emergency contact in case there was a medical emergency that's occurring during their time of service at your organization. If something were to happen, please, please, please let us know as soon as you possibly can that there was an emergency at your internship. It can have other implications, not only for the fellow, but in certain cases, we need to contact their home institutions as well to make sure that their home institution is aware of any emergencies that they could have been involved with during their time in semester in the city or serving at your host organization. The last thing I just want to note is I actually yesterday just received my recertification as a Title IX coordinator. So if that is something that is feeling like it's in your head and you're concerned about what happens with those sort of processes, we do also have a staff member that is trained to handle those sort of complaints or grievances as well. Awesome. Thank you so much. The fun part about my job, and Corey talked about working with you is her favorite part of her job. My favorite part of working my job is helping curate community life events for our students. So I love Boston. I noticed that some students are hesitant to get out and explore themselves. So the programming that we create as a team in collaboration with all of the students is encouraging them to get out and experience the city in the 3 short months that they have here. And I really encourage all fellows, not just the community leaders, to contribute to this process and let us know about anything they're interested in doing. So during launch week, they are going to explore Boston by foot and by MBTA to get a little bit of some experience if they've never been on the train before, as well as getting to know the city a little bit. This semester, we're also taking them on a narrated historic harbor cruise, which I'm very excited about. They're going to get on the water and learn a little bit about Boston's history at the end of that launch week, which I'm hoping will be a really warm welcome to the city. And this is just a list of some other things that we do. We like to balance ticketed events with non-ticketed events that really build out community in the cohort. So a lot of times those events will be held at the apartments, whether it be some sort of potluck or a movie night. Or crafting or anything like that. So another just thing you can always encourage your fellow if there's something they're excited about doing or they really want to do in Boston, just encourage them to talk to me. And if it is at all possible within our budget constraints, I will make it happen for them. So it's super exciting. Yes, I love that idea, the Esplanade, and it's the September is the perfect time to get them down there. So hopefully we'll be able to do something like that. Awesome.
I'm going to skip this activity in the interest of time because I want to make sure that you all get out of here right around 1. But I will pause just briefly, like we've been monitoring the chat. But does anybody have any questions about the stuff we just talked about before I talk about what's next?
Oh, that's a great question, Shaw. So most fellows do have a laptop, and they should be expected to bring their own laptop. If not, we do like you are welcome to provide them a laptop if that is something your organization has the capacity for, but they should be coming with a laptop. If they do not, or there's been a scenario in the past where a fellow has lost their laptop or broken their laptop during the course of the semester, we will reach out to you to see if it's possible for you to provide them with a laptop. If not, we do have a lot of resources prepared to help them get a replacement laptop throughout the course of the semester as well, that they can use.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay. I'm just going to briefly go on about what's next so that you can feel set up and ready to go. First, pre-semester stuff, some of it is just program administration. So Ange sent out invoices for the host organization fee on August 3rd, and they're due the 24th. So if you haven't seen one or if you need one sent out again, just let us know. We're happy to send it out. For returning mentors, your America Learns account should still work with the same password. But if you are a new mentor, you are going to get an email from Katie today that has a link to set up your America Learns account. The annoying thing is that that link only works for 24 hours. So if you happen to miss the window, and everybody does, it's no problem. We'll just send it out again. You're going to be signing the MOU in America Learns. That's the Memorandum of Understanding. Highly recommend you read it first because it's written in plain English. It's not legalese. I would hold off on doing this right now because we are sending our new MOU to the Massachusetts Service Alliance and they still have to greenlight it. So there's a little bit of back and forth that needs to happen, but it should be set before the due date of August 31st. And if it isn't, then that's not your fault. We would push the date out. So don't worry about the MOU for right now. If you are a returning organization and you've already provided a certificate of insurance that has been for the entire year, you don't need to do this again. But if you are a new organization, you do need to upload your certificate of insurance. That's kind of why we flag these things here, because sometimes it's not you who has that certificate. You have to reach out to your HR or an insurance company. So just to get that on your brain, if like, oh gosh, I need to find out who has the certificate of insurance, that needs to go and live in America Learns. Couple just brief things about the MOU. It is pretty long. It's about 14 pages right now. And again, that is again because we're partnered with this Massachusetts Service Alliance. We had to put more stuff in there this time. But two things to note is that you're not able to provide cash compensation to a fellow. And the other thing is, let's see, what's the two things? Oh, just that if we reach out to you for information, we have a thing in there that says that you will respond within 72 hours. So I'd just like to make those people aware of those two things. For your pre-semester responsibilities, I'm going to have a link to this welcome email we recommend you send. That is just, so the fellow knows like when to show up and where, or if they're working remotely, how to log on. Yeah, it's just, and setting expectations about like, should they bring a lunch the first day? Are you guys going to have, some kind of like lunch celebration of their first day? Anything that to get them ready, what to wear. Yeah, if you'd like them to bring their laptop or just inquiring if they have a laptop, anything along those lines is fair game. But we do have a template for you if you would like to use it. I do recommend creating an onboarding schedule because that'll just get you all set up for like what's going to happen on what day and what to expect. It's something that eases sort of like that initial like, oh gosh, what am I going to be doing? And minimal effort on your side in terms of HR. Like we do take care of most things, but if there's anything that your organization requires that they sign or, look at, or let's say you have a handbook that you want them to read, that's something that they can do in the first week. And meeting with anybody in IT or you, if like, just to make sure that their computer is set up properly. So they've got access to Salesforce if they're using it or Canva or any of those types of programs. And also just sharing, your fellow start date with your team, like who they are, maybe a few details about them, what their role is going to be, and in the terms of AmeriCorps, also like what they won't be doing because we don't want them to violate that terms of agreement. But yeah, it's always great to know that somebody let people in your team know that there's going to be a new face around the office so that they feel welcome. We already touched on a lot of things that you're going to be doing during the semester, the hours requirements, the meeting with a fellow, the reviewing of the proposal and the work plan. we talked about biweekly updates, timesheets, site visits. These are all things that you're going to find in the MOU that both you agree to provide and that the student agrees to participate in as well. This is a really helpful slide that I actually take a picture of and I put in the email to you folks because some people have said that they just want to get these dates on their own personal calendar. I personally usually print it out and stick it somewhere so that I can look at it really quick. They will be arriving at your organization at the very end of August, August 31st. They move in with us on the 24th, so it's happening really quickly. Those two becoming a problem solver activities or the proposal and the work plan, the homeworks that we have you take a look at are happening around the mid and the end of September. Here are your biweekly and timesheet dates. You should be aware of program holidays. They don't work on Labor Day. They don't work on Indigenous Peoples Day, and they have some time off around Thanksgiving. So if you also have time off around Thanksgiving, then just make sure you coordinate with them in case you do want them to work that Wednesday. And then the grading deadlines, the final grades that we'll get from you, the final, evaluation forms are due on December 1st. And right before Thanksgiving, just to hop back, their special project presentations are happening the Friday before Thanksgiving. So they have their presentations. We have sort of like a holiday week, and then, everything ends. That's the graduation week. So it's a big deal. You'll be invited to the graduation, of course, and that's on December 4th. So important internship dates for you. Again, we'll provide them. And this is when we wrap up and say thank you. We know that your time is extremely valuable and you have chosen to be here today, and we greatly appreciate that. You can look for emails from me with like the summary and the slides, links to documents. If you're new, you can expect that America Learns email, and also you can expect an SITC advisor introduction email very soon. Since Emily's out this week, you might get it Monday, Tuesday of next week. But yeah, she's very Johnny on the spot and good with doing that. So thank you once again. If you don't have any questions, please feel free, head out and enjoy the rest of your day. And if you do have questions, we can linger here on the call and talk about whatever you'd like.